The article that I would like to review today is by Balpini, Tingstrom, Olmi, and Roberts. They investigated the sequential introduction of positive antecedent and consequent components in a compliance training package with elementary school students. The dependent variable is non-compliant behavior. Non-compliant behavior is defined as failure to respond to a first-time request from a teacher within a 5-second period of wait time. Their independent variables consisted of two different categories. You had the antecedent independent variables, which was effective instruction delivery and time in, and then you had the consequent independent variable, which was contingent praise. Antecedent independent variables in terms of effective instruction delivery was defined as gaining the student's eye contact, being clear, concise, and directive in terms of your instruction, using statements instead of questions, standing in close proximity to the student, and waiting at least 5 seconds before the student responded. Time in this case, was also an antecedent independent variable. Time in was considered in terms of the teacher's approach and demeanor when given an instruction. Did they have a smile on their face? Did they put their hand on the student's back to give them a pat on the back as they were given the instruction? And then contingent praise, as they were using verbal reinforcement for complying during the instruction. Coding sheets were developed for both baseline data and intervention data. Observers were trained in the data collection with a criterion of 90% or better that had to be met in terms of making sure that there was accuracy in data collection. Also, reactivity in the study was diminished in that before the study began, the researchers ascertained that reactivity would not be a problem because the observers spent some time in the classroom observing and interacting with the teachers, so it sort of became part of the natural routine of the classroom. So the students the observers sort of became a fixture within the classroom. So that diminished the effects of reactivity in this study. IOA was obtained for all of the independent variables that were measured in the study. And IOA results were 100% in all of the categories measured. Treatment fidelity was also obtained, and treatment fidelity using the coding sheets was within the 90% range. The outcomes of this study were such that antecedent interventions that were explored, which consisted of effective instruction delivery and time in, were found to be efficacious in terms of decreasing non-compliant behavior, meaning that these antecedent interventions, if used consistently with good treatment fidelity and good reliability, that it will help students increase compliant behavior. What they found in terms of the consequent independent variable, which was contingent praise fortified the antecedent effectiveness, meaning it added to the efficaciousness of the antecedent intervention. So contingent praise was also found to be helpful, which in the fact that it helped to maintain the non-compliant behavior, and with certain students it increased their compliant behavior. In terms of the limitations of this study was that the researchers found that the students were already receiving special education as part of their regular programming, and in doing so they thought that maybe that alone may have affected the results of their study, because some of these special education teachers who are certified and specialized in the area already use specific strategies to help their students be compliant with expectations. So that was a limitation that they recognized. Another limitation was that during the study, there were many times when the teachers were interrupted by the observer to give them feedback on how to sort of implement a specific step, whether it's a specific step in the effective instruction delivery, or a specific step in terms of contingent praise, or a specific step in terms of time in that they weren't doing correctly to begin, and whether or not sort of that interruption and that given that feedback affected the results of their study in terms of how the student responded to the teacher's interaction with them. So these were some of the limitations of the study, and given if you take the limitations and the outcomes into consideration, and given the inter-observer reliability and the overall study, it's really one of those interventions that you would consider using in terms of addressing non-compliant behavior.